Boys and girls, before we get started with the cool colored birds, I just would like you to take your Crayola marker and color in your branch. And make sure the tip of your marker is pretty evenly distributed on the left-hand side. You want to have this line outlined in Sharpie. And don't worry about if you have some white spots, because at the end of this project, I'm going to show you that we can actually use a little bit of water to blend the marker, which is a nice effect. So because we don't have brown, we're not going to mix brown. It's just going to be too much. But if you have a brown marker, just color the bottom in brown. Don't worry if you have some white spots. What's going to happen is we're going to use some water to blend it in so we have a paint effect. Make sure the cap is on the marker, and you want to try to color in as dark as you can. Okay, so color in the bottom part of your branch. Okay, now we're going to start with the violet first. I'm going to start with the violet bird first. Okay, remember, have a paper towel or a wipe with you. And you're going to wet your brush, and the violet color in your mixing, in the educational mixing palette, is the third one from the right, the violet here, okay? So you're going to go the violet one, and you're going to paint your last bird violet. And you want to make sure that you're painting in the same direction, okay? And also, it does look like I went outside the line a little bit. So I'm going to just blot that so you can see how easy it is to take off that color. Okay, because this is a little bit more like a blue violet, but it's violet enough so we don't have to really mix it. And you want to make sure you're painting in the same direction. And evenly distributed. If you go outside the line, what happens is, by the way, you notice I'm using my hand to hold the paper still. You want a very little paint on your brush and very little water. If it spills out, what you can do when this project is done is you can go over with your Sharpie and make your lines a little bit thicker in case if you happen to have some areas that stand out too much. Okay, so there we have our violet bird. Now we're going to paint our blue bird. I'm going to just use the nice sky blue here. So we're not going to mix. You're going to put your water, paint in the water, and then go right into the paint here. And again, you want to paint in the direction of the shape. You want to try to make sure, you're going to notice that you need very little paint and water on your brush. And you notice in your paint pans here that you don't really need a lot of water in there. By the way, when you're done with your paint, you want to make sure that after you do your blending, that in the paint palette, that you clean it with your wipe or your paper towel before it dries, so it'll be neat and clean for the next time. So you see when there's splotches here, you just want to make sure you move them around and around. And again, you want to try to have an even distribution of color. So I'm going in a circular motion, and I'm spreading the paint around so that it's nice and even. And I'm trying to use the tip of the brush as much as possible. And then I'm going to do the beak. Again, use the tip of the brush, and I'm leaning my hand on the paper so that it's nice and even. And now I'm going to do the tail. Again, always have a paper towel or a wipe on hand in case you have a little spill. Also, you want to make sure that you blot as soon as there is a little spill. And when you're blotting, you're not wiping your wipe. You're just touching it lightly. Okay, so we have the blue bird. Now all we need is the green bird. Now you're going to wash your brush thoroughly. And you're going to take some of the light blue. And you're going to mix some of the yellow with it. Now, make sure you wash thoroughly before you get that yellow. Okay, you can already see it's turning green here. All right, you want to make sure that after you make your green, this is a really nice green. Okay, really nice green. Blue and yellow make green. When we're done here, we're going to make sure that we clean out the palette. Okay, and it's a nice, if you want to make your green just a little bit darker, you can add some blue. So if you want to do like a kind of like a Kelly green, you can add a little bit more blue. If you want to have a little bit more of a yellow green, it's up to you. What kind of green you want to do. But remember, you want to kind of paint evenly and fast, because once you start your color, you really want to make sure that you finish it before class is over if you're in school, because we have we do have a little bit of a time constraint. And you want to use the color that you made here in your palette, okay? And again, I always love to use my pinky to lean on the page, and you don't want to lean on any of the previous birds that you painted, okay? And you want to use the tip of the brush to get into those areas that are hard to get to. And I can see, all right, there we go. So then you want to rinse your brush. By the way, it's really important to clean your palette as soon as you're done using it. Take your wipe and get a clean part and just blot the color so that's nice and clean for the next time. And then when you're done with your green, you just want to use your wipe or your paper towel to just clean everything in your palette so that next time it'll be nice and clean. I noticed that I just kind of brushed up, kind of touched up my violet bird here. So I'm just going to touch that up a little bit. But one of the things that you're going to notice is that your paper might bend a little bit. That's fine. That's natural because the paper is absorbing the paint in different time periods. So eventually it's going to dry flat. And also one of the things I want you to keep in mind when you're painting is that when you are done with your painting, you want to put your brush flat. Okay, so now to do the branch, we're basically just going to take some water. I clean my brush, and we have to make sure that we have paper underneath. You want to make sure you have paper underneath your painting, and you're using water just to blend the brown a little bit, and it actually has a nice watercolor effect. So if for those of you are at home and you don't have watercolor paint, you can experiment with using marker. I want to show you this marker and add water to it. to make it into like a watercolor paint. And there we have our rainbow birds. When you're done with your brush, rinse it, dry it with your paper towel, and keep it flat in your palette like that. And I can't wait to see what you do.